Welcome back. You're still tuned in to News and Views with myself, Salala Makwidi. The time is 9:42 Central African time, and we're going to be turning our attention back home to Gauteng specifically, where as the 2026 academic year begins, nearly 5,000 learners remain without confirmed school placements. For families, this is not just an administrative delay, but is a crisis with legal, social, and long-term consequences. Despite repeated assurances from the Gauteng Department of Education, thousands of parents are still waiting answers. They're still waiting clarity and classrooms for their children. And to help us analyze what's really going on and what rights parents and learners have, we're joined by Faatima Laher. She's an attorney awaiting admission in the Education Rights Program at Section 27. Faatima, thank you so much for joining us. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to News and Views.
Assalamu alaikum and good morning to your listeners and viewers. Thank you so much for having me today.
No, pleasure's all ours. And I think we'll just begin with the scale of the problem. Nearly 5,000 learners in Gauteng remain unplaced, essentially meaning they don't have school. From Section 27's perspective, what are some of the main and key drivers of this crisis? Is it infrastructure? Is it shortages, administrative failure, planning, or just all of the above?
So, before I get into what are the root causes, I just want to address some of the rhetoric that the department has been putting out there in terms of the statistics. So the department has indicated in various press conferences that there's a 98% placement of learners in schools, and it's just 2% of learners who aren't placed. But this 2% is not just a statistic, it's the lived reality of thousands of children who are still without schools. And the constitutional obligation that the Constitution places on the department, especially in terms of the right to basic education, is an immediately realizable right, which therefore means that learners have to be placed despite any kind of admin constraints. Going back to the root causes of the admissions backlog, there are various issues that we have noticed in terms of our walk-in clinic, some of which are the chronic school capacity shortages. There's a lack of schools, especially in the urban and metropolitan districts like Ekurhuleni and Johannesburg. This is due to internal migration within the provinces. Another issue is late or incomplete applications. This is often linked to the lack of digital access and the lack of support for vulnerable families. There's also a huge issue of overcrowding especially within the metropolitan districts. And there's various exclusionary or inaccessible admission practices. For example, would be when parents are forced to sign admission contracts which don't allow them to apply for fee exemptions, or they are not informed that they're allowed a fee exemption or that they can apply for one, and schools force them to sign these admission contracts where they have to pay the full price upfront.
Very, very concerning indeed. From a legal standpoint, what obligations does the Gauteng Department of Education have under the Constitution and also existing educational law to ensure every learner has access to schooling, especially at the start of the academic year?
Definitely. So the Constitution is very clear. It clearly indicates that everyone, regardless of where you are from, your race, your gender, everyone has the right to basic education. And it is immediately realizable. And therefore, delays in placing learners undermine children's dignity, their learning continuity, and family stability. And these delays cause a huge issue, especially for parents who have to arrange transport, childcare, or rearrange their work schedules. So this kind of patience that the department has asked for during this period offers very little practical relief.
I think what's concerning for me is the fact that almost each and every year, as the academic year is about to start, we hear of these similar kind of issues and similar promises that are being made by the Department of Education. Um, why does learner placement continue to break down annually in Gauteng, despite the many court rulings that we've been having, some of the policy commitments and repeated public outcry that we see year on year?
So these online and admission issues that we've been having have been taking place since the inception of the online system, but also it's been a yearly recurring issue. And this is due to the lack of infrastructure, the lack of schools. Gauteng is becoming more and more overcrowded, and there are insufficient schools. The department also hasn't made or is underutilized some of the schools of which better use can be made for it. There's also the department needs to ensure interdepartment planning in terms of migration data so that they can adequately plan for the amount of learners in the province. With the recent inaction of Bella, which is now the South African Schools Act, the minister has put out admission and capacity regulations. These regulations have been gazetted, but they are yet to be implemented as yet. They are still out for public comment. And these admission regulations have assisted in providing a framework on how learners are admitted. And the capacity regulations have been put out to address overcrowding to an extent because it creates a benchmark for classroom sizes as well as pupil and teacher ratios. And this influences admission because a school's capacity is legally determined according to the norms which affect whether a school can admit additional learners. So the these are really great in terms of ensuring that schools aren't overcrowded, but the issue also comes in where there aren't enough schools to place learners, and this creates a huge backlog.
Mm, mm, Very concerning. Fatima, for parents listening this morning at this current moment, who probably have a child that has not been placed yet, what immediate steps are there that they can take? Are there formal legal remedies, escalation channels, or just timelines that they should be aware of?
So there are walk-in facilities that you can check on the department website. You can go to those walk-in facilities. However, the department says that it is working to process these late applications and the applications that they've received. So they said that they're working through it, and I think we'll just kind of have to wait for the outcome of it. But there are a few issues that are arising in terms of if a learner is being placed in a school that they're not happy with and those kinds of things. But however, currently, if a parent is being provided with an option, they if they that option is one of the if they decline that option, there are not many available options available to them because what happens now in the late admissions process is that the decisions are final, and they not if a parent wants to appeal a decision that a school has been provided to them and they are obviously unhappy with, they can appeal it, but the appeal decision is also final, and parents must just be aware of that. So the late application process is currently has been going on since the 17th of December and will run until the 30th of Jan. So far, I think the department has recorded around 11,000 late applications, which it is working through. The online system remains open during this process, and parents are urged to apply by registering on the department's website, which is www.gdeadmissions.gov.za. .gov.za, and during this period only schools with available space will appear on the system. So you won't be able to see a school that you'd like but already has reached capacity. The applicants will only be allowed to select one school in this late application process, and once selected, the learner will then be placed at that school. Placements made during this time cannot be declined. So if you've made a late application and you receive placement, you won't be able to decline that placement, and you cannot make any objections or appeals to late applications. So to the normal application process, you are allowed to appeal, but to the late application process, you cannot make any objections or appeals. I just would
Mm,
like to clarify that for parents. And
mm.
Section 27's walk-in clinic is also available for anyone who needs extra support during this time.
Most definitely. And I think, one thing that, maybe we can wrap up with this. One thing that I've almost noticed is the fact that these placement crises almost disproportionately affect poorer families, migrants, and learners with special needs. What does that say about equity in our education system, and what structural changes need to happen when it comes to planning, budgeting, and accountability ultimately to ensure that this does not repeat itself in 2027 and beyond? Because we can't keep having the same conversations each and every year when the academic year is about to begin.
No, definitely. Without structural reform, 2027 will look exactly like 2026. And I think some places where we can get involved in, and the department needs to address, is identifying local capacity pressures. Where are the high pressure districts? Supporting vulnerable families, as well as holding the various authorities accountable. So that this crisis doesn't emerge every year. We understand also the online application system, and it has done wonders. However, it's not a service that can obviously service everyone. And therefore, I think the department has to ensure that it is more vocal about the walk-in basis that they've put up, so that parents can go there and receive support and address any concerns. But yes, I think school capacity, in terms of the lack of school infrastructure, the lack of utilizing the infrastructure we have to its fullest, these and as well as balancing that with ensuring that the capacity and admission regulations, once implemented, are correctly implemented and regulated. And there's a fine balance to ensure that there's no overcrowding, but also to ensure that every learner's right to education is immediately realizable. I think I'd just like to end off with the fact that the admissions crisis in Gauteng is not about software glitches or late applications, but it's
Mm,
about whether the state is planning to seriously plan for children and take their rights into account.
Most definitely. Faatima Laher, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you giving us insight on this very, very pressing issue, especially now as the academic year is about to begin. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, there you go. That was Faatima Laher, Artini with Section 27's Educational Rights Program, unpacking Gauteng school placement crisis, something that we keep on seeing each and every year as the school year, as the academic year in the province of Gauteng is about to begin. And yeah, I guess 2026 is no different. And if nothing is being done about the system in itself, if, more resources are not placed into the province because of, migration, essentially, a lot more people are coming into Gauteng because of, the infrastructure that's in the province. A lot of jobs, companies are here. And I think special attention needs to be taken here when it comes to the placement of kids, because I don't think for any parent there's anything more frustrating as everyone else is preparing their kids to go to school, buying school uniforms, buying stationery, and you're just in limbo. You don't know what to do. I think it's a very, very depressing, it's a very, very heart aching time of the year if you're one of those 5,000 parents whose kid or kids have not been placed in any school. And you can engage with us. You can give us a call and let us know how you're dealing with the situation, how we can assist. So your line is 0116800355. Our WhatsApp line is 0617660355, and we can help you get in touch with Faatima and the people out at Section 27, and they could be able to assist. Otherwise, we've come to the end of that segment. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's time for hashtag Fire It Up.